Well, public and private sector employees are slated to go back to the office up to 5 days a week starting in the new year, so just a few weeks away. But some parents are scrambling to find childcare as waitlists for before and after school care are continuing to grow.
So joining us now live with more on the logistical issues many families could be facing as the return to office policies get implemented is Amber Straker, Executive Director of the Association of Early Childhood Educators in Ontario. Amber, good to talk to you this morning. If we could clone you, I feel like this problem might help because there seems to be such a shortage of early childhood educators right now. So how can this problem, from your perspective, get resolved kind of soon enough for all of these parents who have this dilemma of, I can't go back to work because my kid can't get to school and get the care? How quickly, like, is there a quick fix or are we kind of screwed?
Yeah, I would hope we're not screwed. There's also not exactly a quick fix, but certainly things that can be done to help alleviate the workforce crisis. And one of the things that we've been advocating for a number of years now has been a wage grid to be implemented for early childhood educators and other benefits that include health benefits, pensions, vacations, sick days, the decent working conditions that are necessary to not only bring early childhood educators into the field, because we have many ECs entering the field, but really to help keep them in those jobs and to help with that retention crisis that we have.
Amber, it seems like the pandemic was the turning point for so many things, including this back to work legislation. But it was a time when a lot of parents have that flexibility to work from home. Maybe new parents, having kids are like, OK, I don't have to put my kid in daycare. I'm home anyway. But now the problem seems to be that providers aren't retaining or recruiting the same amount of staff to work in these childcare centers, which is only contributing to the backlog and the waiting lists that we're seeing. I know you brought up wage benefits, things like that. But among your peers, among the people that you talk to, are you seeing have you been witnessing a lot of people leave the field and go into other areas where they're not in these daycares or childcare centers?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we're all very aware of the cost of living, right, being quite an issue right now. And so for an early childhood educator, it's a question of life. How can you survive? Staying within the field has not been possible. And to be honest with you, from what I hear from early childhood educators and for myself as well, it's not a choice to leave the field. It feels like something you are forced to do because the working conditions and the wages are not meeting the requirements to live sustainably, especially for here in Toronto. And this issue does predate COVID as well. I mean, my son is now in high school, and so we're no longer looking for that care. But almost 10 years ago, when we were even trying to find before and after care for my son, that was not a possibility in our area. And so while we've seen wait lists grow, certainly this is not a new issue that we have in the field.
And what I found interesting about this, too, is some of these numbers here, Amber, is that, multiple parents may have their names on different wait lists. So we don't really have an accurate picture either of the overall demand for this, which I suppose then makes it difficult for, policymakers and people implementing this to know, well, how many spaces are we short? How many do we actually need?
Yes, there are some regions across Ontario that do have centralized wait lists, and so that data is a little bit easier to follow. But of course, in some areas where there are different wait lists for various centers, and those centers are reporting to the government, we do see some overlap. And so you're correct, it is difficult to know truly the number of spaces that are needed.
Yeah, this is going to be quite the dilemma when, 60,000 just Ontario public servant workers are headed back to the office in January of 2026. You don't factor anyone else who has to go back to the office. That's a lot. So I'm very curious, are early childhood educators, I know you said it's not a choice that they want to leave the industry, but are they, taking up jobs as nannies? Because perhaps if you become a nanny, let's say, that's the option for parents right now. If they don't have access to childcare, they can try to afford one. Are you seeing many people leave to go to the private sector or just work for themselves in that capacity?
I think what we're really seeing is early childhood educators who are leaving for jobs that have higher wages, that offer benefits programs, and have pensions available for them. And so we're seeing them leave to places like Costco or other areas where there are higher wages, where there are benefits put in place, because those other additional benefits that are added to the compensation, that are part of that compensation package, impact the way we're able to live our lives. And so early childhood educators are moving into roles where those are included so that they can, like others, live as full of a life as they possibly can.
Okay, you can understand why they would want to do that, but certainly there is a dilemma here in the province. Amber Straker, appreciate the time this morning. Be interesting to watch where this goes in the new year. Perhaps we can talk again then. Thank you.